Very important to understand that when you have an identity, whether you like it or not, and whether you see it or not, whether you're aware of it or not, there's another, right? You can't have an identity without another, and vice versa, right? And also the prediction that when there's an other, the other is an identity, and the identity is an other, which is what we said earlier.
Yes.
Those are all predictions that turn out to be valid.
True, yeah.
And the reason that's important is because those represent things that we don't see. So think of it this way. Imagine if you didn't know that for every valley there was a mountain. For every valley system there was a ridge.
Yeah.
Right? But the truth is that, where there's a ridge, there's a valley, and where there's valleys, there's ridges, and these things tend to come together.
They coexist.
Right?
Yeah.
You can imagine there's no in-breath without an out-breath, right? There's, except maybe the last one or something like that. But
it's sad.
It's kind of sad. But, well, even that one, you'd have an out-breath, I guess.
Yeah, there's no in-breath.
Yeah. So, the idea is that when you have an identity, there's always an other. There's always an other. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times that other is something that we're marginalizing, something that we're ignoring. Sometimes in systems thinking, we call those others externalities.
Yes.
Right? We create things that are kind of in our mind external to the system, even though they're not actually external to the system, but we make them external to the system. So as a result of them being externalities, we don't consider them. And then when things don't work out the way we planned, we go, wait a minute, what happened? And we don't ever consider those externalities as part of the equation because we made them an other from the get-go.
Right.
So this, whether it's marginalization, whether it's, externalities, those kinds of things, we're constantly doing this.
Downstream, that's hugely problematic. So, if the other is a whole group of people, for example, that's a problem.
Yes.
If you're not seeing or if you're purposely marginalizing them because you're claiming the identity, then that has a lot of downstream effects.
That's right.
So let's go back to the research on our strengths and our weaknesses in distinction making.
Well, in very simple terms, we see the identity way more than we see the other.
Yes.
So we're biased towards in distinction making. Every distinction has an identity and other.
Yeah.
But most of the time, we see the identity but not the other.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's this massive bias towards the identity and away from the other. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a bias. And that's a bias that's coming into play all the time because we're making distinctions all the time. Right? Yes. So just being aware that wherever there's an identity, there's another will help you to just do like a quick check and test your distinctions, challenge your distinctions, right?
Right.
Make sure that you're not creating externalities. Make sure that you're not marginalizing other ideas. Make sure, for example, that you're not creating echo chambers, right? An echo chamber is a form of identity bias.
Right.
Because what you're doing is you're saying, these are the messages that I agree with, and these are the messages that I disagree with. These are the not messages. Mm-hmm. And I'm only going to like things that are part of the message. Well, over very short order, you only get that message. And then you start to believe that this other message doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Because it's not part of your world.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You're not hearing it. You're not seeing it. Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist.
So you believe this is all of reality.
So then you start to believe this echo chamber is reality.
Yeah.
And that's very dangerous.